Captain Midnight.
Huh? La Crista!
The highest grossing American movie of 2025 so far is a Disney remake. There's a few ways to look at this. I mean, on one hand, sure, that's not all that surprising. Lilo and Stitch is a very well-loved movie, and bringing it back was a perfectly understandable way to just make bank for Disney. We can all understand that. But still, I have to admit I was caught off guard a bit. The reason is that I've been watching these remakes for years and years now, making videos on them, and the diminishing returns have been pretty obvious. You have very high-profile failures like Snow White, but you've also had movies that just disappeared without a trace, like that Peter Pan thing that I honestly forgot I even did a video on. So why did Lilo and Stitch perform so differently, and what does that mean for the future of these Disney remakes? I think that's worth talking about. Before I do, I will say I'm trying to hit 750k subscribers this year, so if you find yourself watching my videos and haven't subscribed yet, now could be the time.
So much mischief, so much destruction, so much for being man's best friend. You've never had a pet like this.
Okay, so I have no idea if this is going to be a controversial opinion or not. I think some corners of the internet really loved this movie, but I don't think Lilo and Stitch is like much better or worse than most of these Disney remakes. It goes through the motions, mostly hits the beats that you expect it to hit, makes a couple baffling changes, and is mostly uninspired and forgettable. And yet, it's huge, where a lot of the other recent Disney remakes have not been. I think it separates itself from something like Snow White in a few important ways. Beyond the obvious of it not kicking up a ton of online controversy, it and Freakier Friday, which has also done pretty well in theaters, if not anywhere near Lilo and Stitch level success, it was initially made to go straight to Disney+, which meant a much smaller budget. I mean, let's break down what actually happened here, because I do think the contrast is pretty crazy. Lilo and Stitch opened to a record-breaking 146 million domestically over Memorial Day weekend, ultimately reaching 423 million in the US and Canada, with 610 million international for a worldwide total of over $1 billion. In 2019, Disney movies were raking in this kind of cash fairly regularly, but these days, I mean, these numbers are incredibly impressive. Then there's Snow White, which limped to a 43 million opening weekend and capped out at 204 million worldwide. We're talking about a 5-to-1 difference in global box office performance here. And that's with Lilo and Stitch having a budget of like around 150 million versus Snow White's 250 to 270 million. Snow White really needed to make like Dune Part 2 money, while Lilo and Stitch kind of started printing cash from the start. It broke Top Gun Maverick's Memorial Day weekend record and became only the second film of 2025 to surpass 400 million domestically. It stayed at number 1 for 3 consecutive weekends, something only Captain America Brave New World had managed earlier this year, and worldwide, it wasn't even close. Lilo and Stitch made more than double what Cap did. I say this to show that this wasn't just a hit. This was like pre-2020 mega hit money. Look, with all that being said, I don't love making videos just devoted to box office numbers. I try to never make that the end-all be-all of anything I'm talking about. But I do think this gives us a pretty fascinating look at the state of the industry, and maybe tells us a lot about where executives' heads were at and where they will be in the future. A few years ago, sure, Disney execs knew there was an audience for early 2000s nostalgia bait, but it was still a budget play to them. Something to tuck away on Disney Plus and help push those subscriber numbers a bit higher, while the real heavy hitter brands like Snow White and a Lion King prequel held down the fort in theaters. But as Disney Plus movies only started to look worse and worse to shareholders, they wisely shifted these to theatrical. And especially in Lilo and Stitch's case, I think it entirely redefines what these executives will think a heavy hitter brand even is going forward. Or, put more cynically, where they will be planning their future franchise milking. I don't want to insult the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Of course not. It's a landmark in the history of animation. It's charming. It still looks wonderful today. The music is great.
It belongs in a museum.
And seriously, its production history is fascinating. I'm not here to disparage 1937's Snow White. You know what it's not, though? You know what function it doesn't serve as much for a contemporary audience? Being a complete Mountain Dew Baja Blast back to 2002. It doesn't remind us of the Game Boy Advance, Ratchet and Clank, Bratz dolls, or Jimmy Eats Worlds of the Middle. But our buddy Stitch, oh, he'll get the job done. 5 minutes with this little guy, and I dare you to think about the rent that's due next month, or that depressing ass CNBC video I just watched about microplastics. Whether the new movie is good is beside the point, unfortunately. 80s nostalgia had its time in the sun, let alone something as old as Snow White, and now it's a younger generation's turn to be like, Shark Tale was a misunderstood masterpiece, actually. Late 90s and 2000s nostalgia is at a very powerful point right now. For better or worse, I think that Lilo and Stitch has awakened Disney to this reality. So, where do they go from here? Well, I hope you'll allow me to somewhat baselessly speculate for a minute. We already know a lot of the movies they have in various states of development. Some stuff appears to be cancelled, like the Aristocats remake, while others are definitely happening, like the live-action Moana. And some of these, I don't know, Sword in the Stone? I'd be really surprised to see that one, honestly. We already know they're working on Cruella 2, so it makes a lot of sense that Disney recently confirmed a Lilo and Stitch 2 as well. Although I seriously doubt it'll be based on the 2005 straight-to-DVD sequel. Then there's the riskier stuff that may actually look a little more attractive to them now. Sticking to 2002, you have Treasure Planet, a really well-liked movie, and way more up my alley than Lilo and Stitch was for me when I was 9, honestly, but it was kind of a disappointment for Disney at the time. But do the years of nostalgia, paired with this recent report from Variety that they're trying to reach more Gen Z men, make that more likely to happen? I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm not Gen Z. Maybe they don't care about Treasure Planet. I guess you can tell me in the comments. But at the very least, it can't hurt. Now I could say the same thing for 2001's Atlantis: The Lost Empire. Maybe even more so, as that did do a little better when it was released. Also, side note, speaking of the Game Boy Advance, I think that's an underrated tie-in game. I think both these have aged really well. I just love the animation in Treasure Planet. I definitely don't think they need remakes. At the same time, I now feel like these are way more likely than they were before. Definitely more so than some of the ones stuck in development hell. Like, are we still getting that TikTok-inspired Hercules movie from the Russos? That's roughly from the same era. I mean, that sounds pretty bad, but maybe they will get back to that too. I also wouldn't be surprised if they tried to redo Emperor's New Groove, and man, that would be a tough one for me. Just please leave that one alone. Please. Then there's the holy grail of Disney remakes. The Pandora's box I imagine they can only resist opening for so long. That elephant in the room, Pixar. Once they do this, there's no looking back. Now, Pixar higher-up Pete Docter was quoted in Time magazine last year, giving a big no to live-action remakes. Quote, "This might bite me in the butt for saying it, but it sort of bothers me. I like making movies that are original and unique to themselves. To remake it, it's not very interesting to me personally." I totally agree with Docter here, and I hope they are able to hold out, but come on. I mean, do we really think that will last long term? Pixar is already producing sequels like crazy and has for years, many of them very good, to be fair, but the brand's prestige has definitely been tarnished a bit, and they're not doing quite as well as they once were. And probably most importantly to Disney, can you imagine how much money a Monsters Inc. remake would do? I'm sure even an older one most people don't put quite at that level, like Bug's Life. I don't know, maybe this is me being way too cynical after having my brain boiled in these remakes for a decade, but I really do think it's just a matter of time. So far I've talked a lot about what I think they will do, but I should also mention if they, actually should, and I think the answer to that is no. The general quality of these remakes has been pretty low, with the very occasional bright spot. But I think more than that, what these remakes ultimately do for Disney is give them a lot of short-term gains at the expense of the industry's long-term health. Kids growing up now deserve more than just an uninspired imitation of what their parents and grandparents loved as a kid. And if you don't give it to them in movies, they're gonna find it somewhere else. Plus, those animated movies are still there for them to discover. These remakes have really felt like a footnote, and with the possible exception of Pete's Dragon, I don't think a single one has surpassed the original. If Disney plays it so safe that a whole generation grows up with mostly just remakes like this, I don't think those theater events will really stick with them in the same way. You're creating kids' movies to please the parents' wistful nostalgia, not the kids. And while there is probably a time and place for that, and it can clearly be very successful, I think in the long term, they're going to miss the original concepts and ideas that they could have been funding instead, when these have been completely milk dry. I was really hopeful that after Snow White, these would start winding down, getting deprioritized. But now, I just expect their direction to slightly change. I guess here's hoping that some of these new original Pixar movies they have on the schedule make a solid case for them to escape this fate a while longer. So I have had a lot to say about the Disney remakes over the years, but someone who may have me beat on this front is Lindsay Ellis, who has always had really smart and interesting takes on the studio, which is why I loved her recent video, Let's Compare and Contrast Disney's Flop Eras, which you should absolutely watch right now on Nebula. This thing is almost 45 minutes of Lindsay breaking down some of the lowlights of Disney history in detail, with all the wit, nuance, and research that we've come to expect from her. And it really goes to show that not everything was rosy for the studio, even back then. This video is sponsored by her original, which you'll only find on Nebula, a space where ad-free videos and unique projects can thrive. That's because it's designed to be the go-to spot for both creators and viewers craving something fresh and creative. All my videos are on there too, completely ad-free, plus some ones you'll never find on here. Right now you can join and get 40% off, a year of Nebula for just $36 or $3 a month at go.nebula.tv/Captain Midnight. Plus, you'll get guest passes to share a week of access with friends or family. Grab the deal by scanning the QR code on screen or checking the link in the description or pinned comment below.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once, because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started, because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes too.